in here when we do multiple choice corrections, we do them not just to learn why the right answer is the right answer, but it also gives us practice in how to write paragraphs for argumentative essays. As I said the first day in here, everything you do in here is an argument. Okay, so we're going to put this together as an argument. Now, before we actually get into how to make the corrections, I was asked first period, so I'll tell you guys, what is a good score? Now, keep in mind that this is the first AP Lang multiple choice test you've ever taken. First one you've ever seen. Okay, so just keep this in mind. If you got 50% of the questions correct, that would roughly be equated to a C. Now, normally we think 50% is an F, right? In this case, 50% would be a C range, okay? Because it's curved grade. It's not really curved, but it's adjusted grade. So, gives you an idea of where you are. Now, I'll say this. All 5 classes, I ran the test results yesterday afternoon. They ranged from 40%, average of 40% correct was the low, average of 42% correct was the high. So all of the classes were in that 40 to 42% average correct. And I'll just tell you right now, that's not bad considering it's the first time you've ever done this. That's not bad. Okay, so we have something that we can build on and you can grow with. Now, I told you also the first day class that I'm going to give you the tools to be successful, and I'm going to teach you to use the tools. That's what we're doing today. I'm giving you a tool that will help you be successful, not just in this class, but in other classes down the road. It's going to help you in your analytical reading skills, and it's going to help you in your argumentative writing skills. So keep that in mind. Now, having said that, giving you the tool and teaching you to use it does not magically make you a better student or a better writer. You still have to use the tool. My experience has been that there are going to be some people who are going to roll their eyes and say, this is stupid, I don't want to do all this. And okay, if that's your attitude and that's the way it is, well, I'm sorry for you. It's not going to help you. There's not much I can do for you. But for those of you who actually see this as a tool to make yourself a better thinker and a better writer, it'll work. It's a slow process. There's no magic here. There's nothing magic. Okay? It's doing the right work the right way that makes the difference. And so that's what we're going to do. So, here's what we're doing. Multiple choice corrections. We turn the select questions. Select means the ones that you missed. Okay? Questions you missed. Now, before you get all panicky and you say, oh, I missed 25 questions. Okay, several of these questions, this is an older test, so it has some questions, several questions on here that aren't on the new tests because they've changed the way they do the multiple choice on them now. So, and some of them are it's just straight vocabulary, it's things like that. Anyway, so I exempt several questions from these paragraph corrections. Here's the list. Okay, so there's like 20 questions that are exempted. Now you don't have to write these down, but you can mark it, mark it on your paper or whatever. If you missed these questions, all right, stop marking for a second. I want you to listen. Okay, you listening? If you missed these questions, you don't have to do a paragraph. However, that doesn't mean you just skip it and go on. You still need to go and see why you missed it, because a lot of those questions are dependent upon your vocabulary. And you'll find that you miss a lot of these questions because you don't know what the words mean. You didn't know what the words in the answer choices meant. So what do you do with those? The fact that you don't have to write a paragraph on them doesn't mean that you just forget it and move on. Okay? You still need to know why you missed it. You still need to know why the right answer is the right answer. But they don't lend themselves to this type of correction. Right? I still want them addressed. You, You still need to know what happened, why you missed it, and why the right answer is the right answer. You just don't have to do a paragraph. These are exempt from paragraph corrections. We'll make sure everybody's clear on that. Okay? Now, let's go back to the paragraphs. Turn the selected questions. Those are questions that you missed that aren't exempted on the multiple choice into a paragraph that incorporates three things. First, it incorporates the question stem. The stem is the part of the question that matters. The correct answer and textual support for the correct answer, including a quote. Now, all of this needs to be incorporated into your paragraph. You with me? All right, I wish my smartboard worked. I'll scroll down a little bit. There's a sample question from the 2012 test. Okay? The question was, which of the following best describes the relationship between the first and second paragraphs? So we're going to take, we don't have to say which of the following, but this is the question stem. This is the part that really matters. All right, that's not a technical definition of the question stem, but it's the one we're going to work with. Best describes the relationship between the first and second paragraphs. Now, the correct answer for this one was B. The second paragraph describes the effects of an issue raised in the first paragraph. So that shows the relationship between the first and second. There's your right answer. So now what do? Do we just copy that word for word? No, that sounds a little ridiculous, wouldn't it? So we put it together in a paragraph. And I'm going to leave this paragraph up on the board while you're working today, so that shouldn't be a problem. And if you need a copy of it, I will post a copy of this on Classroom with the video. Got it? Okay. Now, we take the question stem. The relationship between the first and second paragraphs is best demonstrated, the answer, where the second paragraph describes the effects of an issue raised in the first paragraph. So now we have a topic sentence for this paragraph. Now, you remember the three key terms that we started talking about? Claim, data, and warrant? Here you're making a claim. You're claiming that this is true. All right. What always follows the claim? What is it? The data, which is the evidence or support, right? For example, all right, this little introductory phrase here tells us, next is coming my support, my data. For example, the author argues, quote, neglect of expertise leads to, quote, weakness of many other enterprises in science. So now we have specific data support straight from the text to support what we're saying up here. Now, it needs further explanation. We get that. And what do we call the explanation? There you go, the warrant. To support the argument, the right, and I put this in here, that's a little simplistic, but I want to make sure you understand exactly what goes where. Got it? To support the argument, the writer lists specific areas of study, such as systematics, biogeography, and ecology, and the detrimental effects of each area because of the general neglect of expertise, goes back up here, in those fields. This is our warrant. This is where we explain, we've already talked about this, but in your paragraph you are explaining how what you've put up here supports what you said up here. Claim, data, warrant. Make sense? Okay. You've already worked on this. Article of the week. We've talked about this extensively on how to do that with those two paragraphs. Okay? So this is not anything new, it's just a little different version of what you're used to. Now I'm going to point something out here that I think is important and you need to know. Notice the quotes. Okay? Notice the quotations I have in here. Do you see any full sentences quoted anywhere? No. Not at all. You never, for the purposes of this class, for argumentative writing in this class, you're never going to use an entire sentence as a quote. You only use the part that's necessary, and you always introduce it somehow. Okay? I kind of use a guide for quotes, is they should never be more than 4 to 6 words at a time. That's just a guide. It's not a hard and fast rule, but that's what I try to look for and try to teach you guys to do. When you're using quotations, 4 to 6 words is usually all you need in a quotation. Got it? If you introduce it correctly, if you're using it correctly, that's all you need. If you're quoting 2 or 3 lines or 2 or 3 sentences, you're just throwing filler in there to take up space. Got it? And that's unacceptable. We don't want that. Now, so we have our claim, we have our data, we have our warrant. Do you see, hopefully you see how this is going to help you better understand what you're reading? You're going to know why the right answer is the right answer every time you do this. Okay? Now, is knowing the right answer to that question on that multiple choice test really all that important? Not now, because you've already taken the test. So why do this? Because it trains us to think about all of these parts when we're looking at these answers. What does the text really say? How do I know this answer is correct? Is there support for this answer in the text? And if there isn't, then it's probably not the right answer, right? Because it's going to be supported somewhere, or it's not the right answer. So this trains you to think about what you're reading when you're looking at these answer choices. It also trains you to think about how to put together your paragraphs, your arguments, claim, data, warrant. Some people call this the topic sentence. Fine. Mr. Conforti probably call this the topic sentence and data and warrant. Okay? So these are interchangeable terms. Got that? Now we can go, and you go back here and mark the ones that are exempted from paragraphs. They're not exempted from knowing why the right answer is right. They're just exempted from paragraphs, okay? On this test, and it's different there. By the way, the new tests, the newer tests that we'll use as the year progresses, as practice and so on like that, they will have maybe 5, 6 questions, 8 at the most, that are exempt. Since this is an older test and they're older style questions, I've exempted more than I normally do. Do I need to clarify anything? Now's the time. We good to go? All right, just a minute. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Will this count to our actual grading class?
Yeah. Yeah, this is all practice, okay? This is not an assessment grade. And you know how the grades work here, right? Practice is 20% of your 80%. It's confusing, right? The grades for this class, this is a year-long class. This is not you don't have trimester grades in here, by the way, because this is a year-long class, so we'll just go ahead and talk about that while I'm on it. Your trimester classes, they take your grade for each trimester and then they average those and all that kind of stuff. Your trimester grade that's posted on your report card at the end of the trimester is not averaged with the next 2 trimesters. It's just an ongoing grade. You only have one grade in this class that matters, and that's at the end of the year. And it is 80% classwork, 20% final exam. Your 80%, this is all in the syllabus, folks. It's just like all the other year-long classes you've had before. If you've had AP classes before, you know how it works. The 80% classwork is divided into 2 categories. That is practice and assessment. Assessment being the tests, okay? Practice is 20% of the 80%. Assessment is 80% of the 80%. Assessments are huge. Practice, while the majority of your grades are going to be practice grades, the assessment grades are what really affect you. So assessment grades are more for me to keep up with what you're doing. The bottom line is they have very little effect on your overall grade at the end of the year. Does that make sense? That doesn't mean they're not important. You still got to do it. But if it's only for the grade, then you're probably not going to be successful anyway. Got it? Make sense? And I'm not knocking you for asking the question. It's a legit question, and I appreciate you asking it. All right, anything else I need to clarify? We're good to go? All right, I'm going to turn the camera off, and then I'm going to put you in groups and explain how that's going to work. Okay?